Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zeniton, and welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. Today we have a lot to talk about. Spoiler season has started for the upcoming set, upcoming cards. I believe these new set is called Beyond the Bandlewood. Lots of new things are going to be coming in. We don't know much yet, but we've seen some new cards. We know dual region cards are going to be a thing. Cards that are currently in the game are gonna become dual. Some cards are gonna become dual region cards. For example, Timo will now be a Bandle City PNZ card. Some cards that are already in the game will be getting a new tribe, like Yordles or Feyfolk. Um, but we got new cards today. So starting off the spoiler season, we got a lot of stuff today to look at, and all of them are, in my opinion, kind of annoying cards. Not necessarily the strongest cards, but a lot of them are really annoying. And in general, it seems like there's some puff cap support if you're into that. So enough rambling, let's get into this and look at the cards and talk about them. Why not? All right, the first few cards we got here. First off, Aloof Travelers. Oh boy, this card. This is definitely a card. So before we talk too much about the card, let's see what it actually does. 4 mana, 3/4, Aloof Travelers. It's also a Yordle. When I'm summoned, both players draw one, then your opponent discards their highest cost card. It's also one of the new dual cost cards. It's both a PNZ card and a Bandle City card, so that's pretty cool. I actually don't think this card is OP. I know a lot of people have looked at this card and think this card is insane, it's OP, it needs a nerf. I would disagree. I think it's good. Don't get me wrong. I think this card is a good, solid card, especially in the right meta, but I don't think this card is OP and needs a nerf like I've seen some people saying, because I feel like what's happening is a lot of people, myself included to a small extent, are looking at this card and they're thinking to themselves, oh no, my late game. Because they're thinking to themselves like, oh no, my Aurelian Soul. Oh no, my Karmas, my Lee Sins. Yes, and that is bad, but it's a 4 mana 3/4, which is not terrible. 4 mana 3/3s are played, and it does cycle itself, and it does get rid of a card from your opponent. Like, it's not a symmetrical effect like Veteran Investigator, the 2 mana 3/2 that says you both draw a card. This thing, for an extra 2 mana, you get an extra 2 health, you both draw a card, but then your opponent discards their highest cost card. And of course, funny against Watcher too, I guess. That's cute. I'm just not sure, because like against certain control decks, the threat density is really high. Now against combo decks, yeah, this thing's kind of crazy. Like against Lee Sin, you don't really have any targets besides Lee Sin for it to discard. Now, I'm actually not sure how ties will be broken. Like, if you have 2 5 mana cards, which of the 5 mana cards will be discarded? Will it go from like whatever the rightmost card is, whatever the leftmost card is, etc., etc. So I don't know how that works, but we'll learn eventually. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I've also seen some people say, "Oh, this card is terrible against aggro." It's not great against aggro. I'm not gonna say that, but I don't think it's terrible compared to like, I don't know, Hexcore Assembly, which I think is the best deck for this card. Hexcore Assembly decks, Hexcore decks. Hexcore decks just refill your aggro opponent's hand. They just keep continuously drawing cards. There's not really a downside. Sure, they're going to draw some more puff caps, but aggro decks are able to empty out their hand and play all their cards so they don't run into the detriment of, dying to puff caps or having their hand get full, like, say, a control deck or a combo deck, like normally, like what Hexcore wants, in other words. But this card against aggro decks, since it hits the highest cost card, you're usually going to hit something important for an aggro player. Either like a very important piece of burn, a very strong, powerful unit. For example, things like Captain Farron, Gangplanks, Decimate. It's decent against Gangplanks, Sejuani. It gets rid of Gangplanks and Sejuanis, really. Maybe Dreadways and Leviathans. I know Leviathan's not a bird card, but I'm just mentioning expensive cards now that get hit by this. But yeah, there's a lot of very good cards that get hit by this card. And you might say, like, when do you play this? Do you hold it and not play it on 4 to try and wait until like turn 7 to play it to try and hit like a Leviathan the turn before they can play it on turn 8? I'd say don't overthink it, in my opinion. Just play it if you can. There's also the cute thing where if your opponent just has no hand, this is pretty much just a draw 1 for you, a 4 mana 3/4 draw 1 for you. Mill the top card of your opponent's deck, which is kind of cute. But yeah, I don't think this card is hyper OP, and I've seen some people say this card's going to be in every Bandle City / PNZ deck when the set comes out. That I really disagree with, but I do think this card will see play in Hexcore decks. Teemo, Ezreal, maybe some Sejuani. Well, no, if you play, you can't. Actually, no, yeah, because it's a dual card, you can play this in no, yeah, you can play this. What am I thinking? I'm still confused about the dual cards a little bit, but yeah, you can play this with Sejuani. But yeah, so that's the only deck I think this is gonna see play in, unless there is more like Yordle synergy, of course. Maybe there's more synergy to more like non-Hexcore Puffcap synergy, so you want to have your opponents draw more cards. But you have Veteran Investigator for that, but maybe you don't want to be in PNZ and you just want to be a Bandle City Ionia deck, so you won't be able to go in PNZ. Also, of course, I can always see it as a tech card in the future, because there are some cards that are just bad, like Hunt the Weak or Passage Unearned, which are kind of mediocre and look like absolute garbage, but I've seen play in certain metas. For example, Passage Unearned has seen some play during Harrowing metas. Anyway, that's enough on that card. We got a lot of cards to go through, so I probably shouldn't ramble too much about one card, but there was a lot to talk about with Aloof Travelers. The next card, Ava Achiever. Is it supposed to be a play on Overachiever? Do I have to pronounce her name or his name Ova? Ava? I don't know. I'm going to keep saying Ava Achiever. 6 mana 4/4 Yordle. When I'm summoned and round end, plant 3 poison puffcaps on random cards in the enemy decks. Not amazing for a 6-drop. Traps on enemy cards are doubled when activated. First thing to take note of, it says traps. It doesn't say puffcaps. We already know puffcaps are traps. So that's just because we just know that already as a fact. But because it says that, we can assume we're going to get more traps in this set. Specifically, my first assumption is Caitlyn. Caitlyn is going to be some weird trap kind of I don't even know value, but trap related champion, because, well, one, in League of Legends, Caitlyn uses traps as part of her kit. And 2, the traps that Ava's holding in their artwork, it looks similar to Caitlyn's traps. Anyway, as for the card itself, how good is it? Honestly, it's annoying. I'll say that. Is it good, though? I don't think it's good. I think it might be playable as a 1 of or 2 of, as the top end of a trap-based deck. Maybe even a Hexcore deck. The problem is it's not a dual region card like Aloof Traveler, so if you're going to play this with Hexcore, you have to cut Freljord. So that's kind of a problem. If you're cutting Freljord from your Hexcore deck, you lose things like all the freezes, the Troll Chance, the Elixir of Iron, etc., etc. And yeah, for a 6-drop, this thing is not doing much. Like, the effect is good. Don't get me wrong. The passive effect of doubling trap activations basically is really strong, and I think this card is going to depend on other traps. I don't think just puff caps alone are going to be enough for Ava to see play. But if there's a trap that says, like, I don't know, when I'm drawn, your opponent takes 2 damage. Wait, isn't that just a bigger puff cap? Never mind. I don't know. A trap that says, like, when I'm drawn, draw a card. Your opponent draws a card or whatever. You basically, a trap on your opponent's card that when your opponent draws that card, the trap activates, letting you draw 1 card. Something like that. But yeah, I think you're going to need, or I don't know, again, a trap that says, like, I don't know, when I'm drawn, give your opponent a 1/1 or whatever. Stuff like that. I could see those kind of cards being decent or whatever, but just with puff caps alone, I don't think this card is good enough. Think about it. Let me put it this way. In terms of 6 mana and more units, very, very few, especially non-champions, are played. Think about them. The ones that are played either have very, very game-swinging effects, or are part of a combo, or are just really good value. Things like, or they get a lot done on the turn they're summoned. So things like the boats in general, like Leviathan. Captain Farron gives you decimates right away, even if he dies. I can never remember his name. The 6 mana 3/3, the Augmented Experimenter, I think is the name. In discard aggro, it's a 6 mana 3/3 that deals 3, discards your hand. So that's like an insta level for Jinx too, if she's on the field. Ava, and like again, if you destroy those cards on the turn they're summoned, they still did something big. They still like dealt 3 to a unit, drew and discard, or discarded and drew a hand, created some decimates, drew a champion, etc., etc. Like Bright Seal formation doesn't see much play anymore, but you play it even if your opponent removes it with a vengeance or something. It made your entire board have barrier for the turn. Ava, if you summon her and she dies that turn, you basically played 6 mana, put 3 puff caps in your opponent's decks. That's a huge tempo loss. Now, again, maybe you'll be able to pair this up with a region. Maybe there will be a region that you can pair up with Ava for Bandle City that has some good protection spells. So maybe Ionia, Freljord, maybe Bandle City will have some good protection. We're gonna have to wait and see. That's the kind of card that I'm looking at Ava. But that is a very strong kind of passive effect that Ava has going on, especially if there are some good traps. Again, it's like we need to see more cards in the set, and we need to see more traps, because as it stands now, as I keep saying over and over, it's not enough for just puff caps. And sure, it's like, oh, but the 1 puff cap does 2 damage. So if your opponent draws 2 puff caps, they take 4 damage, and so on and so forth. I'm like, yeah, that's cute and all, but it's also 6 mana. That's a lot of mana. Okay. Now then, next card. Lecturing Yordle. I like this card. 4 mana 3/5. It's a Yordle as well. When I'm summoned or attacked, create a fleeting poison dart in hand. If you don't know what poison dart is, it is a 1 mana slow speed spell that says deal 1 to, I think it says deal 1 to a enemy unit. No, I think it's no. I remember this now. It said deal 1 to anything. So 1 mana slow speed spell. It said deal 1 to anything and plant 3 puff caps in your opponent's deck, randomly, of course. I like the card. I like Poison Dart, and I like Lecturing Yordle. Poison Dart, it's cute with Ezreal, of course, because it's targeting maybe some kind of PNZ, Bandle City, Ezreal kind of control that can become a thing. Getting a little extra damage thanks to puff caps with the Poison Darts. This thing also kind of fights for Chump Wump slot index, 4 mana 4/3 that creates 2 of the whatever puff cap creation, draw, shuffle in card. This thing also creates cards too. Granted, they are fleeting, so you have to use them that turn. So you can't just hold them until you draw a rummage or get excited. So there's that. But it will keep drawing, or it will keep creating more and more poison darts for you. So that is cute. I do like that. But yeah, I like this card. Solid body, decent value. A little sad that it's a fleeting poison dart, but that's fine. And especially if there's some good Yordle synergy, even better. But we don't know. I don't think there's been any kind of Yordle synergy shown off today. So right now the Yordle tag on top is pretty much just flavor text. Now then, the next cards. Got a few here. Puffcap Pup. First off, he's a very good boy and he's very cute. Puffcap Pup is a 2-mana 2/2 with quick attack. Pretty solid 2-drop. Also, whenever it strikes, plant 3 Puffcaps on random cards. Just plant 3 Puffcaps. I think this is a solid card. Not OP, nothing like that, but I do think it is a solid 3 of in a variety of decks. Just a solid 2-drop. Not many cheap units have quick attack. The only one I can think of off the top of my head that has quick attack is the one in, I think it's PNZ. It's the 1-mana 1/1 with augment, which is kind of bad because, well, it has 1 health. 1 health kind of sucks. This thing, it gets around the pings. It has quick attack, so it can attack in very nicely. And it has a little extra in the form of its strike ability. Plus, in my opinion, I don't know how true this is stat-wise, but I'd say, in my opinion, I think most 2-drops favor the 3/2 allocation of their stats instead of 2/3s. Not many 2/3s do you play. Most of the time they're 3/2s because blocking Fearsome's nice. And being able to trade up for a potential 3-drop is nice. The only 2/3 that I honestly can't even think of too many 2/3s for 2 that see much play. So this card is going to probably get in at least 1 strike to the Nexus. And even if your opponent somehow is able to block and trade, or even if they for some reason want to just chump it, it still strikes, so it still gets the puff caps going too. So that's pretty good. Now, of course, dies to Mystic Shot, but it's a 2-drop. It's gonna die to Mystic Shot. It's very rare it dies. Very rare your 2-drop doesn't die to Mystic Shot, unless you're playing a 2/3. But yeah. Solid card. Not much to talk about with it. It's very solid, decent value, helps you get on the field, fights for the board, starts the puff cap train going if that matters to you. So yeah. Kind of mediocre in the late game, but again, it's a 2-drop. You can't expect too much out of it. Not everyone can be like a, I don't know, Mountain Goats or a Dragon Guard Lieutenant or whatever that guy's name is. Now then, next card. This card, I don't know about this card. Swole Scout. Lifting buddy of Swole Squirrel, I assume. 4-mana 3/2. Terrible stats for the cost. When I'm summoned, if you've added 2 cards to your hand this round, grant me +1/+0 and elusive. So first off, that's a permanent buff. And it says added. It doesn't say drawn. So I'd assume things like Poro Cannon, which don't draw the elusive Poros, they just add them to your hand, would count as adding 2 cards to your hand. Or I guess Lecturing Yordle. If Lecturing Yordle attacks gives you the Poison Dart, that'll count as adding another card to your hand. And since you added a card to your hand because you drew a card that turn, because that's how the game works, that'll have been 2 cards added to your hand, and then you can play this and you'll have the 4/2 elusive. Now, how good is that is the real question. I don't think it's good. Like, here's the thing. I honestly don't think this is a good card. I really, really am not a fan of things with 2 health if they cost 3 or more mana, because Mystic Shot, Avalanche, and Blighted Ravine just to start with. And before you say, well, some cards you play with 2 health and they cost 3 or more, like Tasty Fey Folk. Yeah, but those cards are very, very specific. Like, Fey Folk sees play because sometimes you need more than just Eye, or your deck just can't support Eye of the Dragon, and so on and so forth. Plus, we're not even in that Avalanche / Blighted Ravine / Mystic Shot heavy meta right now anyway. But compared to Fey Folk, This thing's another extra mana, and it has a condition on top. That's the real big issue for me, is the condition on top. You need to add the 2 cards to get that elusive. If you're not getting the elusive, but you still have to play this card for some reason because you need board presence, I guess, that's a terrible thing. You're basically paying 4 mana for what is basically a bad 2-drop than a vanilla 3/2. No text on it than if it's just a 4-drop. If you don't activate the add 2 cards thing. Let me put it this way. If there was a 4 mana 4/2 that just said 4 mana 4/2 elusive, nothing else, would you play it? Maybe. That's the key word, is maybe, but not like 100% yes. A lot of, as annoying as elusives are, only a handful of them are played, and most elusives that see play are the cheaper ones, like the 1 mana 2/1 that's only elusive for the turn is played, the Navori Conspirator, the Green Glade Duo, Shadow Assassin sees play, but that's because it also draws a card. And there's some other ones like Zap sees play. Zap is just busted. Those Zap Brayfin, 4 mana 2/2. It also has a tune and it draws a card, and it's a very specific card at that. And then I guess you can technically be like, oh, well, Abyssal Eye. Yeah, Abyssal Eye is kind of a weird one when it comes to aggressive elusives, because it's not an aggressive elusive. So yeah, I'm not so sure about this card. It's kind of got a small health pool for a 4-drop. And its condition looks really tough to activate, but I've underestimated elusives before. I could see myself being wrong, and I can see myself losing this card. So, and especially if Bandle City has like, it again comes down to like, how easy is it to activate its ability? How easy is it to have, how easy is it for it to come down on 4 with that +1/+0 and elusive, in other words. Now, speaking of adding 2 cards to your hand, we got more of this like add 2 cards to your hand kind of archetype, keyword, whatever you want to call it. Yordle Newbie. 3 mana 3/2. When I'm summoned, if you've added 2 cards to your hand this round, grant me +1/+2. So it'll become a 4/4 for 3. This card is garbage in my opinion. Before you say Old Badger Bear was a 4/4 for 3, yeah, but Old Badger Bear was busted not because it was a 3 mana 4/4. It was decent because it was a 3 mana 4/4, but it was busted because Grizzled Ranger was a 4/1, and when it died, it dropped to 4/4. So they nerfed Grizzled Ranger and Badger Bear. Plus, another thing is, there's already a card like this in the game. That's a conditional 4/4 for 3. Kahiri. 3 mana 3/3 that gets +1/+1 if you've predicted that game. That card sees pretty much 0 play. And in my opinion, I think predicting on turn 1 or turn 2 before you play Yordle Newbie, or before you play Kahiri on 3, is much easier than adding 2 cards to your hand to get a 3 mana 4/4 to activate the Yordle Newbie. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe, again, like I said, Poro Cannon is the best way I can think of to add an extra card to your hand to achieve this, extra cards. There's also, I guess, Ballistic Bot. Ballistic Bot gives you the ignition every turn, so that'll technically be adding a card to your hand along with the card you would draw, so that's adding 2 cards to your hand that round. And that is a cute curve, like Ballistic turn 1, whatever, turn 2 Ballistic Bot, turn 3 Yordle Newbie. But is that powerful? I'm not impressed by that kind of curve, in all honesty. But who knows? Maybe it's good enough, but I'm not hopeful of Yordle Newbie to be good. But again, a thing to keep in note is, depending on Yordle synergy payoff, maybe Yordle synergy payoff will be so good that you'll want to play some Yordles that seem kind of bad, like Yordle Newbie. Who knows? And the next card, Entrapment. 2 mana burst spell. Pretty cool. I like burst speed spells. Pick one of 3 units or spells from the enemy deck and plant 3 poison puff caps on all copies of it. I think this card is bad. Now, before you say it, yes, I know. Entrapment against Go Hard. Yeah, but still. First off, who plays Go Hard right now anyway? Second off, outside of the Go Hard decks, what else are you doing with this card? And 3, this card's a 2-mana do nothing against aggro, pretty much. Like, cool, you put some puff caps on some cards in an aggro deck. That 2 mana could have been used to fight for the board in the early game. So, not a big fan of this. Maybe with some trap synergy payoff like Ava. There's definitely puff cap synergy payoff too. The first one I can only really think of is Teemo. Helps level up Teemo really quickly, but I'm not too impressed with this card. But maybe Caitlyn will like this. Like, maybe we'll have a Caitlyn Teemo trap deck that could use entrapment to really get to a critical mass of traps in the deck. And again, it's kind of cute against certain decks like Go Hard, but very, very few decks in the current meta have shuffled in a lot of cards like this. So I'm not too impressed by this card, but it's cute. Definitely a funny kind of meme, though, I'll say that. Now then, we got one more page of cards. So interesting cards here. First off, we have Poison Dart, the card that we saw from the Lecturing Yordle, or at least I talk about with Lecturing Yordle. 1 mana slow spell, deal 1 to anything, plant, and then plant 3 puff caps in the deck, enemy deck. It's fine. I think it's better than Blade Dance, but worse than Parlay to give a very quick power level. Dealing 1 to anything is nice, so you can use it to hit face for a little extra reach. Use it to just pick off some small stuff. I don't know, kill Zoes, kill enemy Teemos, kill Fizz? I guess attempt to kill Fizz. And then you get the puff caps too, so that's kind of sweet. So I like the card. I'm not expecting to see it get played too much, but again, it's putting puff caps in the deck, which are traps. So again, maybe a trap style deck we'll see play with this. Next card, Some Fumes. I don't know about this card. 3 mana fast spell. Deal 2 to a unit. If you've added 2 cards to your hand this round, deal 3 to it instead. If it weren't for the fact that this card was in PNZ, I'd be very excited about this card. It's literally only because this card is a PNZ card I'm not too impressed by it. PNZ has such good removal already, especially smaller, cheaper damage-based removal. Think about it. There are 3 other cards that I like better than this. Mystic Shot. I don't think there's an argument there. Everyone plays Mystic Shot in your PNZ deck because that card's just really good for its cost. Number 2, Get Excited. Number 3, Gotcha. So now we have a 4th choice in the form of Some Fumes. And before you say it, I know I'm forgetting Thermogenic Beam. I'm not including Thermogenic Beam into this because it's not a fast spell. So let's compare this. Let's take out Mystic Shot because Mystic Shot's on an auto 3 of in pretty much almost any PNZ deck. Comparing this to Get Excited and Gotcha, I'm not sure how to think about this with Get Excited and Gotcha. Because I feel like if you're creating fleeting cards, like with a Ballistic Bot, or just creating cards and generating cards randomly by playing something like Chump Wump, I'd rather play Get Excited because all I have to do is discard one of those cards that's either fleeting or I generated. And then I can deal 3. And plus, with Get Excited, I can also hit the enemy Nexus. This can only hit units. So if I'm not creating fleeting cards or generating cards, then I'll go to Gotcha if I still want some way to deal 3 early on. If you're not playing Time Trick, which is one of the reasons why Gotcha is seeing play now, because Time Trick into Gotcha is kind of cute. Sure, 4 mana deal 3 is kind of mediocre, but if I don't have the discard fodder for Get Excited, I'm playing Gotcha. And if I have discard fodder, then I'm probably getting it by adding cards to my hand, which means I'll have discard fodder for Get Excited, And why would I play Sump Fumes over Get Excited if I'm adding cards to my hand? Unless they're, of course, fleeting. But even then, I'd still like Get Excited. So, and then if you're not playing, and like I said, if you're not adding cards to your hand and activating this, then you're better off playing Gotcha. Unless you want, I guess, like a 4th or 5th copy of Mystic Shot for an extra mana. In which case, sure. But yeah, I'm not saying it's not playable. I do think it's playable, especially if there is, for some reason, a deck that is somehow able to easily add 2 cards to the hand at least every other round, maybe. It comes down to like how easy it is to activate that second line. How easy is it to activate that add 2 cards to your hand line of text? If it's easy, then sure, I can see this getting played over, say, Gotcha, but then it fights for the Get Excited slot, and I personally just am a bigger fan of Get Excited because it can go face, and when you play Get Exciteds and Mystic Shots in the same deck, that's a lot of burn damage that can be an alternate win con if you're not an aggro/burn deck. Anyway, the last card for today, Stinky Wump. Stinky Wump is a 1 mana 2/1 that says, last breath, create a copy of me in the enemy deck with 2 puff caps on it. Attached, whatever. Meh. I don't think it's bad. But I'm just... It's like the puff cap puppy, or whatever that guy is called. It's fine. Like, it's a solid card. I actually think it is playable, too. Like, it's a solid card. I think you'll play it in Teemo decks as, like, your other 1-drop besides Teemo. It's pretty solid defensively, too. Like, your opponent plays Legion Rearguard, you then play Stinky Wump, and then you can obviously block their Rearguard with your Stinky Wump if they attack in, instead of having to play Teemo and just taking the 3 damage. So, there's that. I know it's not a popular deck, or even a good deck right now, but maybe this in a weird control deck to help the early puff cap. Again, I said it before, but like maybe some weird control trap style deck. We have seen some people try out, myself included, Karma Teemo burn control kind of thing, where you would use like Karma and Hexite crystals getting doubled up to try and win. Teemo would get in a little bit of chip damage and just be annoying, like, you know, like Teemo does. So maybe in that style of deck we can see Stinky Wump see play, but I'm not sure. But I do think this card is fine. I think it's a solid playable card. I'm just not excited for it, if that makes sense. Anyway, that's all the cards for today. Very long video today also, by the way. But there were 3 whole pages of cards. There were like, what, 11 cards or so? I think 10 cards, actually, now that I think about it. Well, we had a lot of cards to talk about today. Anyway, though. Fun stuff. I like some of these cards. Some of them are very annoying, though, but some of them seem pretty fun and interesting to play with. Like Ava, especially if we get more traps. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'm pretty hyped for the upcoming set, and I can't wait to see more. Please help out Targan, Rito, by the way. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like or a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these cards and the upcoming set. Maybe you think there's something that I missed here, and you think some card I said is kind of bad is good, and vice versa. Also, if you want to keep up with the Legends of Runeterra content, you can always go and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to watch me play some Legends of Runeterra, you can always go and check me out over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Senaton. I play Legends of Runeterra there pretty much every single day. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching this video. And until I see you guys in the next one, bye!